All right, I got 7:02, so let's go ahead and get started so we don't keep everybody too late this evening. Again, thank you everyone for joining the monthly, this will be August, monthly general meeting of the Longmont Amateur Radio Club. We were talking about trying to do this in person this month, just didn't happen. We are talking about trying to do it in September, but keep an eye on the website for more information because things change like every other day around here. So couple of things is, like I said, we are trying to make some improvements to make things better for the club. I do want to thank everybody who did participate in the Radio in the Park event on Saturday. We had a great turnout. There was about 40 of us or so, a mixture of not only LARC, but also Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. And it was a good opportunity for people to get together. Thanks, Ramon, for taking some pictures and video. I really appreciate that. If you have any other pictures that you'd like to send me from the event, please do so. But yeah, we had a good time. I don't know if Doug made any contacts or not. It was more of a rag chew in person and a learning experience for a lot of hams. Even some of the newer hams from NCART showed up and was asking questions because I put my my Yagis out. I've got the elk periodical and I also have the arrow. And so I was showing people those with my own little go box with a FT100. And then we had the club's go box out. And then Doug had the club's, I don't know, what is it, whatever that other radio is that we have, with a couple of antennas. And we just had a good time. And of course I sweated my butt off making hot dogs and hamburgers for everybody. So, but it was a lot of fun. And I appreciate everybody who came out and enjoyed that. As a reminder, Longmont Amateur Radio Club has been invited to the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club's picnic in September. And I'm looking that information up right now. But it is going to be in Fort Collins. I can tell you that much. That's the only thing I remember about it. But yeah, it's going to be at Fossil Creek Park from, I believe it's from 10 to 2. It's at 5821 South LeMay Avenue in Fort Collins. You're all invited to come out. They're going to have hot dogs, hamburgers. Ours is more of an educational one. Theirs is more of just a sit down and rag chew and meet people. But from what I understand, it's a lot of fun. Me and Joe Holly, who's the president out there, has been working together over the last couple of months to kind of, we're not here to steal each other's members. We're here to kind of get hams together and see how each club can help each other out instead of being siloed like a lot of clubs are. So we work really close together and we thought this would be a great idea. He showed up, his vice chair showed up. He said he was going to give the rest of his board a hard time. I'm like, you don't have to, not a big deal, you know, but it was a lot of fun. And Doug, I want to thank you, especially for putting that all together and getting the communication out. As always, Doug does a great job doing that. And like I said, it's a lot of fun and we're going to try to do it again next year. And maybe we'll do the hot dogs and hamburgers again as well.
I think it worked really well. Appreciate you encouraging us to have a barbecue. I think it worked out quite well.
It did, and we had enough food too. I was surprised, proud of myself that I didn't overbuy and I didn't underbuy. So
very good.
And didn't cost a whole lot of money either. So
we did make a few contacts. We made more calls than we got answers back, but we had a good time. So we had 2 HF antennas, and we kind of compared them. Bryan, I don't know if he's on the.
He is.
Here. He's here.
Yeah.
He found a clever way of measuring using this digital system software. And there's a web page that he went out to, and he could tell how many other radios received us across the country. And so it was an enlightening experience to think that the ham stick dipole was worked as well as it did.
So yeah, Doug carries that in the back of his car, so he's always ready to do a POTA or whatever. The other interesting thing on Saturday was there was a lot of sodas going on. I actually made a contact on VHF with somebody, I forget which mountain it was. I'd have to go look it up. It was a couple, probably close to 100 miles away on my HT in the car attached to my mobile antenna. So it is possible. And especially on sodas, I know a lot of people are trying to, and he actually heard somebody from Canada was his next call after me. So I was like, what? So it can be done. Again, like they said, altitude is your best friend when it comes to radios. So climb a summit, and who knows who you'll get in contact with. Is there any board members that have any questions, comments, or anything like to bring up to the club this evening?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, that digital protocol Doug was talking about, we were testing the antennas out with, was Whisper, or weak signal propagation reporting. And I'm planning on covering that a little bit in next week's HamletNet on Tuesday. And I'll probably also write up an article for the newsletter that summarizes some of the results of what we saw with the two different antennas. As far as club stuff, VE sessions, our next scheduled test session is Saturday, August 28th. It's at 350 Terry Street, and it is an ARRL session, so there will be a $15 fee to take the exam. You don't have to pre-register, but if you do go on our webpage and register there, that'll get you on a waiting list, and we kind of go first come, first serve otherwise for taking the tests, because we do still have some COVID limitations on capacity there.
Yeah.
Kat wanted me to mention that the August splatter is out. If you're a member, check your email, or if you're not, you can look on the club's webpage, which is w0eno.org, and click on the splatter newsletter link on the left. And she said to say to, if you have any suggestions, articles, websites, or videos you think other members would find interesting for future newsletters, you can send them to her at splatter@w0eno.org. Just send an email there. And then finally, I was just going to mention some radio news. The ARL has posted some information that the FCC will likely not implement that new application fee until sometime early 2022. So you've still got some time to upgrade or get that vanity call sign without having to pay the extra $35. So I guess this is one of the few times when government slowness actually benefits us. And that's all I had.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it. Any other board member have anything they'd like to bring up? Anybody? Any general members that have anything they'd like to bring up? The other thing I'd like to bring up as a reminder, our voting is right around the corner for board members in September. Will be the voting. The board also may have updated bylaws by then as well for everybody to vote. So if you're a member, paid up member, you are eligible to vote, and we'd like to see you at that next meeting to bring in the next board members to help run your club for you and things like that. Also, if you're interested in running a position or would like to hold a chair position with the club, contact me and let's talk, and we can see if you'd be interested, and we might have a position for you. So again, this is your club. We're here to support you and do what we can for you within reason. Like any nonprofit club, there's got to be within reason. So we try to do the best we can with what we have. Since there's nothing else, I'd like to introduce Jeremiah, N0KMO. I also made you a co-host and talk about POTA and APRS. So the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. It has been a while since I presented on Zoom, so I do apologize. I'm going to be clunky at this. But I'm here to talk about POTA. A little bit of background on me. I've been working in digital communications world, cybersecurity world, you name it, in IT for years. My current position right now, I am automating cable devices, enterprise level. So it's quite interesting. I get to play with coax during the day, and then in the evening, I get to play here with coax. So it's a fun ordeal. fun position, and I think I finally found a company I can settle with because there is a bunch of hams down there that like to play. Anyways, long story short, during 2019, a little bit of change came into my life, and this is where Parks on the Air for me actually really hit home. And that change came about, and my daughter came back to Colorado, and I now have a 2-year-old grandson at 42, my adopted daughter. But I wanted to figure out how do we get out and do some stuff, and I really started looking at summits on the air, but I'm not the biggest mountain climber, so 14ers, eventually. But I wanted to do something where I can hook up my trailer and go and enjoy the family. So what I started looking into was Parks on the Air. Well, that was kind of a mistake because in late 2018, I gave another presentation on portable radio. But now, during that presentation, I also got volunteered for actually mapping Colorado for Parks on the Air for a few years. In 2020, that changed, passed over to Sharon, and I'm sorry didn't forget her last name. I mispronounce it all the time. Sharon Agun, with call sign Kilo Charlie 0, Papa Bravo Romeo. She is taking it on, and she has been taking it on with a passion. So if you have any locations or any parks, wildlife areas, anything you think can be turned into a Parks on the Air location, please get a hold of her. She is very active doing this. She just spent part of the summer going around and actually activating herself. Like me, I also activated this weekend, which was actually a very fun event. I took a ham down to Canyonwood State Park and activated the state park, but we did more. I don't know who mentioned the soda people on Saturday, but POTA people on Sunday was amazing. All right, so let's see if this works. Here we go. Give a thumbs up if you could hear my well, I wouldn't even say thumbs up. I don't even know where my mic is now. This is awesome. Threw over to a screen here. All right. I can see a few people, not everybody, as of this point, and looks like. Can everybody see my? Oh, there it is. Can everybody see my screen? Good to go. Did I lose audio? I know I have the radio on.
No, we're good to go.
Good to go.
I
Okay,
can see
cool.
it.
All right. So, a little bit more background about me. In 2017, I learned how to build my first wire antenna. Took 2 ham sticks, threw it together, and dipole one up, and did my first field day as a ham, I should say, as a licensed amateur. And as a favor, actually started working at Ham Radio Outlet here in the Denver area. When I started working there, I started looking into some portable radio and so forth. But as a little bit of background there, a lot of people started coming in and saying, well, I would like to get out to these parks or wildlife areas or summits on the air where I don't have cell phone coverage. I don't have this kind of coverage all the time, and I'd like to activate. How do I do that? Years ago, being able to see a ham use packet radio efficiently, that got me diving into APRS and how can it be used for everyday situations. And there's actually quite a few uses out there for it. And then the question came, how can I use it for Parks on the Air? SOTA, actually, Summits on the Air, actually has its own spotter mechanism through our packet network, which ironically is simplex. So I asked the question when I was a mapper for Colorado 2018, 2019, and 2020, is APRS considered a mode of, a packet mode that's simplex? If I make a contact with W0ENO, will that count as a simplex Parks on the Air contact if they respond to me? And I also have a log of this. No, it doesn't. Okay, well, that throws that out. Well, what about the idea of using it where I don't have cell phone coverage? The wife and I actually enjoy a lot of national forest dispersed camping. So our mobile rig, most of the time we are using ID51 plus twos, which is the D-Star protocol. We like it because all of our radios are set up with all of our call signs. Our entire family are hams, so we're able to pass location through just the digital protocol when we're in happen to be within range. On HTs works very well. The other thought was what about if we need a way to find the camper? Well, APRS. Okay, great. So we started looking into APRS, and this is what came out of it. Was the idea of let's start doing parks on the air. Parks on the air, of course, everybody knows is 5013C. It's a radio sport program. To get involved, just following pretty much go to POTA.app, which is which is a actual World Wide Web or internet website, as well as it will convert over to app format on your phone. Figure what radio you can take portable, figure out a couple of antennas you can take to use, as a couple of people mentioned right here, right? Also, if the antenna is stealth, it would be a great way to not be seen and questioned. When I activated this weekend, I have an 18-foot tripod. I use two 20-meter ham sticks in full dipole configuration. And I took the Kenwood with me, which is a Kenwood 480 SAT. Had a great time. All on battery and solar. Had a great time. I'm still entering the logbook because I did it by hand with this other ham. And I think we got 25 contacts. Great. About 10 park to parks, which was amazing. Travel to a park location, get on the air, right? The whole point of Parks on the Air is get out, get on the air. Ironically, ICOM last year came out with a very similar motto with their 3-pound radio, right? That can do 10 watts and 5 watts. Battery power 5 watts and 10 watts on standard power. That being said, the ICOM 705 kind of changed the whole face of going portable. Now, that being said, I've seen people actually take some ICOM 7300s out and using those as well as a portable radio. But getting back to how this all started, right? National Parks on the Air. This in 2016, I was out in California, a family event, and I saw Ham actually sitting in a park doing a national park activation. I visited the Lassen National Park all the time when I was younger. I used to live in California before I migrated out here. And he told me what he was doing. I thought, oh, well, this is kind of cool. Keep it in the back of my mind. Same year, I started looking into ham radio for preparedness purposes. My wife and I were in an area that we were looking at some economic stability issues. So we're like, okay, so how do we go portable? What is ham radio? What is preparedness? And we started actually diving down into preparedness a little bit more. Some of the leadership of POTA were originally the creators of the National Parks on the Air event. Now that they moved over to the POTA or Parks on the Air Society, they basically built this up from the ground. And every participant that's on the air in any band, any mode, helps our cause, as we're talking about for the FCC, use our bands before we lose them. It's an organization, right, that sits down and talks about the idea of getting out on the air, which now is my motto. As of 2019, my life also changed, and I was looking at some surgeries, and at 38 was not a good time to be looking at as many surgeries as I had to go through to fix some health problems. So I had a surgeon look at me and say, hey, by the way, you need to lose weight. I've now, Bryan, probably the first time you've seen me in a few years, I've now actually lost officially almost 178 pounds. And that being said, I went through bariatric surgery. So a lot of my preparedness mindset of how to be an emergency communicator and be able to eat on a bariatric diet and be able to go out and do these things and be able to enjoy the outdoors changed as well. So again, APRS came up well, can I use APRS while I'm out hiking? Oh, of course I can, right? Great. It's a packet. It sends GPS information. So this is where this kind of portable talk came from. Granted, you guys are seeing version 1.0.1 right now. So this is being refined as I go. These places, you know, federal parks, state parks, wildlife refuges, we're trying to get national historic sites, wildlife management areas, even local parks, right? As long as it's managed in a way that is an official park, there's a lot of criteria that goes into these locations. So be aware that, you know, these mappers that right now, the Parks on the Air actually looks like they have somebody for every state, but this kind of ties up to, are they always there? Are they always responding? And that's not always the case. So a couple of these mappers are also taking on other states that they're not familiar with. But, you know, email support, definitely email like, hey, I got a location. This is the location. Even though it's a local park, can we somehow fit it into the criteria? Doesn't hurt to ask. Doesn't hurt to shoot off an email. They need longitude of the park and possibly website for the park as well. That's the minimum criteria, and the mapper will go out and take a look and see if that can be handled and brought into the organization as an actual location for a radio sport. I encourage activators and hunters to earn as many different awards as possible. I have not earned a few. My goal with it is to take new hams out and introduce them to portable radio. So that's why I always do joint activations with hams. That's why I really have no activations, because they're always in the other person's name. That being said, I've done a few activations for fun just to test my portability and to help other activators make a activation. I've also hunted here from the house out in the Aurora area, and it's been very enjoyable and rewarding. I do enjoy awards. I do enjoy getting certifications, but right now this is an area that will have to wait. The one thing when submitting your logs, it has to be a ADIF file. That is probably a tough aspect for a lot of people when they're doing this, because some people's loggers do not support ADIF. That is coming up and so forth, but there are new logging applications that are out there. So be aware when you are logging that the newer applications are supporting this more and more. Older applications are either fading off or are adding features now that they've had the technology push from hams like us as well. So POTA not only supports technology such as APRS and the other aspect that we should be looking at, and this just came about in 2020, finalized in 2021, and is now being pushed into the public, that Kenwood House now killed off their actual mobile and HT line. They are still in the amateur radio business. They are doing research on how to get their chips back in process, but they've killed off probably a good portion of the APRS and packet capabilities for newer hams out there. So there's other means out there that technology is starting to thrive, and as hams we should look at supporting it as where we can in the way of donations or helping out by coding and so forth. That is not part of this normal presentation. I've been adding to this, subtracting to it, adding to it. So this is, again, I do apologize, 1.0. Getting out and enjoying your state through any public resources. And it's national parks, wildlife, state parks, local parks. Preparedness, enjoying radio, camping, travel plans, practice, just get out, go portable. But the biggest advantage of going portable and enjoying Parks of the Air is, as we've talked about, is the noise floor. That was kind of interesting hearing about people's VHF contact, or 2-meter contact, I should say, because there is single sideband on 2-meter. Now with the Shacks in the Box. So that being said, it's nice to see a noise floor is low enough that you can make a 68 mile contact on an HT or further. What radios do I need for POTA? The idea of an activation is to use any band on simplex communication. medium frequency, high frequency, very high frequency, or ultra high frequency. MF, HF, VHF, UHF, of course, supports all modes. Digital, CW, and single sideband. AM is also supported, is my understanding, as long as it's a simplex contact. I did not put it into the presentation. I am not a AM operator as much as I would like to be. Power considerations for the mode being used, but really there is no limit. I've heard of and seen videos of people actually trying mobile amplifiers to go up to 100 to 200 watts for parks on the air. So the basics, right? How many contacts do I need? Well, 10 contacts needed to make a complete activation on a simplex form of communication. Why wouldn't packet be on there? That would be my question. Packet is pretty much simplex, while digipeater comes into play. That's where the fine line is. So APRS is still one of those things that it hopefully will make it more and more into this radio sport. What can you do with the radio sport? Well, this radio sport, you can hunt for activators. You could also try a radar deployment, which is a rapid deployment, and that's 3 different locations within a certain mileage of each other. And I think it's within a minimum of 15 or 10, a maximum of like 50 or 75. 3 locations, 10 contacts, that's 30 contacts right out the door. And that's not including the time it takes setup and breakdown. Definitely fun. It's rewarding. If you watch YouTube, please visit KM4ACK. Jason does a very excellent talk on rapid deployment or radar. Set up for rewards, right? As you're doing this, set up for rewards for your contacts, keep everything up to date in the logbook, and apply. It's shooting off an email, shooting off an ADIF file, shooting off, hey, here's my last contact and the information for it. Right now, because as the 501(c) is still gaining speed and momentum, they're still putting together a lot of technology behind the scenes. They have a Slack channel, Facebook channel that you go to now, and some YouTube activator guides and hunter guides, along with PDFs as well. Plan your POTA activation. So this is going to be the key point behind your APRS methodology that we'll talk about coming up here, is log in to the POTA app website, add an activation. Things to consider when planning an activation would be, make sure you know about what time you'll be there. I've heard of failed activations because I've broken down and this kind of thing, and some people are actually hunting for them, which I didn't realize that the hunters out there are actually hunting for you. When you put out your activation, these hunters have these filters down on the POTA.app website that they could just filter by time, date, and so forth, boom, and they got activations in front of them, and they're going after it just like any other radio sport out there. So be aware that people are relying on you, but make sure you're there about the same time, or cancel your activation. There is a way to cancel it. Make arrangements with any park authorities that might need to be made. For example, and this is where I was going to talk about tonight, the big problem is when we get our radio equipment out there, and I've had this with my photography equipment and my laptop set up and some other things set up for doing some recording and being in the park and having my family around me, and we're playing with technology to take it out into the wild. And here we are, I have to have a permit for me to photograph my own equipment in your park, but I've paid the state fee or national fee. And this is an actual big thing now that is becoming more and more, for example, more and more of an issue in the US. We already know about drones is a big issue, but we can play with drones 6 meters, right? So photography equipment in national and state parks is becoming a bigger issue, along with recording equipment. So I think that's where I think it was Don that was mentioning, hey, this little thing that I was playing with, you couldn't see the antenna, but I was still playing with some sort of what looked like radio or recording equipment. And this is all ran by the different park authorities, right? So just make sure you make arrangements if need be. Look at the websites, get the permits that are out there that are needed. check regulations of the area you plan on activating. Again, it's kind of repeating itself. But this should also help with, right, Dawn was mentioning, I had a stealth antenna. She couldn't see it. So she probably didn't even know what the device was. You know, with that being said, it should help with your gear selection. Do you need to activate stealth? Or can you actually set something out on the lawn, such as my 18-foot tripod dipole, and stand that up and actually transmit without having to deal with the park rangers? My activation on Sunday of the Canyonwood State Park, I had 2 rangers walk by, and one of them was like, "Hey, that's a cool antenna. Let me know if you make out to Indiana." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, not a problem, man." And he walked on. He didn't even give a call sign, didn't even announce he was a ham. But ironically, the young ham that was with me, his first contact ever on HF happened to be the Indiana Speedway Special Event Station on 20 meters. So it was a really cool activation. He had a great time. And the young lady on the other end was like, "Oh, you said you're on a park. Hold on." And she quickly took another station, came back to us, and actually said, "Here's my home call. Please mark me down as one of your contacts for the park activation." It was really a neat first time on HF experiencing a first contact for this young ham. So again, the other ranger that we experienced came by and just asked, "Hey, is this a safe thing to do?" I realized, oh, whoops, I forgot to put my guidelines down, which were actually wrapped up around the tripod. So I unwrapped them, grabbed a couple rocks, put the guidelines down just to make sure no one blew up the tripod. So answer her question, yes, everything is in safe. We're trying to keep anything off the trail. We notice that we're in a picnic area and we can transmit on low power here, no problem. So we're all within FCC guidelines, and she was happy with that and moved on. So I have been in a park where I have been standing. I'm an avid fly fisher. Beautiful thing about our state of Colorado, 11 species of trout. And I hunt trout for a living on the weekends, of course. But some of the places I've ever seen in Colorado, most beautiful places, I've been left alone. I've been in national parks where I've been out waiting, and because of the color of a fly, they've accused me of actually violating regulations. Same thing here when I have a wire end fed up through tree branches. My fault, I was using a little larger wire, but the question came into play. So again, the biggest thing, check the regulations, bring your license, a copy of the license, make sure your gear selection is on par with where you're going, know the terrain, or just carry a larger go kit. I like carrying a larger go kit. That's why I own an F-250, so I can haul 13,000 pounds of radio equipment, right? No, it's actually to haul the trailer that has the 4,000 pounds of equipment. But that being said, technology outdoors, great stuff, and it can be limiting based on the technology you take. All right, grab the gear and go activate. Again, bring a couple style antennas, bring a battery power source. That's big key, right? Get out there and you realize, I forgot to charge the battery. Charge that battery. Set up the equipment. Get spotted. Wait, what is this? Get spotted. Well, that isn't by the park rangers we're talking about or regulations. That's actually by being spotted on the air. And actually, how would you go about doing that? Well, there's multiple ways. And this comes down to, we talked tonight a little bit about our social half-hour social hour there. People were talking about getting hams together to socialize, right? Well, there's 2 ways we could do that. We could do that via radio, or we could do that via eyeball QSO. My encouragement is use the technology that's available to us, because I love taking the technology and being off grid as much as possible. Ham radio is a great way to do that. Radio direction finding, GPS, all that other stuff, yeah, it does come into play, but you can still be pretty much, hey, I could get spotted on the radio waves by giving my call sign and saying, see, excuse me, N0 camo, CQ, parks on the air, and just throwing that out every once in a while and see who comes back. And making sure that there's a spot on POTA.app. But if I don't have access to that, I don't realize that maybe a cell tower has been down during 2020. The cell tower literally right up over the hill from me, my biggest QRM issue, basically went down. I lost cell service right here at the house, and all my neighbors lost cell service around the house. We could call out, it would connect the call, but all of a sudden it would say server was dropped. That's a possibility where you're going. No cell signal. Let's talk about how to get spot. So the question here is, if all else fails, what can be used? I should have added to get spotted. The answer here is APRS. Any questions so far as of this point before we dive into the second half? Comments? I'm not the expert here, so definitely.
No, you're doing great, Jeremiah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I do have one question.
Yes.
Is there a requirement, or how do you mark park to park, or should they automatically detect that? Because I thought I had a couple park to parks that never got registered on the POTA website. And I was just curious if there's something special we have to put in the ADIF file to differentiate that or show that it was a park to park.
So that has been probably the biggest pain of 2020 is how do you mark that? They don't have anything on the website to do that. With the ADF file, when I encourage our, they are working on the ADF file for a marking point, a special event or special station. That's what I heard last. But what I am hearing now is that if you have any park to park activations in there, send an email as well to them and mark down the stations that are park to park.
Okay. I'll just make better notes of that next time.
Yeah, I did. He was doing the logging. I know which ones were park to park when we're going through because that's all we were doing to begin with, just to find a spot to. It was a busy Sunday. On 20 meters, I'll tell you that much. It was like you go up 3, okay, go up another 3. Try back down 5. Let's find a spot somewhere to get started with. So we ended up having to hunt around, and we got 5, 4, 6, 7 park to park. And I'm like, well, when we do that, make sure you email these out and make sure you identify that because they're still working on that, on how to process it on their servers. The last time I spoke to them at the end of 2020, early 2021, when I passed off the mapping coordination, my understanding is that their technology team had taken a hit due to, of course, why we're inside now, right? Mm-hmm. Any other questions? And thank you. That was Chuck, right?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a comment to make.
Free?
When we activated El Dorado Park recently, once we got somebody to spot us, we didn't have to call CQs often. Matter of fact, we even had some small pilot frequently. It was great.
Oh, that would be amazing to have a pilot spot you. That would be awesome. I heard that right? Small aircraft pilot.
Pardon?
I heard this.
Oh, it was pile up, not a pilot. Pile up.
Pile up. All right.
Yeah. What we did is we asked the other person who was the hunter. We said, "Hey, can you spot us on the POTA website?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And as soon as they did that, and you get spotted, you don't even have to call CQ. You got people trying to contact you. And I think that day we did something like 31 contacts between 2 people. So we actually activated the park twice.
It was great.
The music to my ears. Did anybody happen to watch Ham Radio 2.0 when he did that big what was it? I think he did live. He did the live Jason did the actual live Parks on the Air activation in Texas with the other YouTubers. I think they activated the park they were at like 10 times over. It was amazing. Definitely music to my ears on that. And we were trying for a pile up on this one. Now, granted, my wife gets on the air for the first time ever, and she's doing a Parks on the Air with me, and she's like, "Oh, well, what do I say?" So I wrote down just like what you guys were saying. We actually had to ask for the activate or the spot, just like what you did, but piled up. I was like, "This is crazy. Why does her voice get a pile up when she used to say CQ POTA? I don't."
Your
Well,
the pronouns are describing what the difference is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the YL adds an extra 100 watts to your output.
Right? Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So, anyways, it's amazing to see how you get spotted. And of course, like the few times I've gone out and just been like, I'm going to do this for fun. I don't have cell service. How do I get spotted? Well, trying to ask for a spot. And of course, this was winter. I'm going around. It's freezing, right? So not a lot of other people are probably hunting or thinking about somebody might be in a park. So POTA is also kind of seasonal too. The nice thing is the U.S. is seasonal. So if you're hunting in the right direction, maybe south during the winter, north during the summer, vice versa on other times of year, east to west, and maybe pointing those Yagis in the right direction, there might be a little bit more activation activity going on. But for some reason, I go out, and from time to time when I don't have that cell service, or the couple times I forget my cell phone, the only way to literally activate was going to the idea of using APRS. And the way I was able to get this spot was actually to prove the theory, is APRS even applicable here? I was able to actually send a ham a direct message in the area that I knew, and he was on HF. He was able to not only get the contact with us, but also spot us, just like what you guys were saying on POTA.app. So this is where I was like, okay, this is really cool, but is this going to be applicable later on in life? And sure enough, I want to say probably 6 months before I even was thinking about this idea, or approaching APRS for Parks on the Air, I got asked to do kind of a disaster preparedness portable operations little talk with a private group. And so we were talking, and they're like, well, APRS is useless. It's all it is automatic position reporting system. It just reports my latitude and longitude. Okay, if that's what you wanted to do. And he's like, what do you mean? And that same day, I actually showed the gentleman asking me the question, I could text with my wife, who, by the way, is 200 miles away. Wait, you can? Yeah. Here's the text right here on my FT2, and here's a screenshot of what she just sent me hitting her phone. Oh, okay. So I think a big thing that we also need to dive into when we're talking about APRS, especially for POTA, is where the history came from, right? What is APRS? And if we're going to use it, not only just for POTA, but for SOTA, I mean, that's another big thing that I've also noticed. And this is where I've started reaching out. I've gotten 2 responses on this from the administrators for the US from Parks on the Air. This whole thing of actually calling for a SOTA to POTA, I've not found any awards on that yet. I found that you can email somebody if you make a SOTA to POTA or a POTA to SOTA contact, and they might mark it down as a special event or something, but I don't even think they have a category for that. And vice versa on the SOTA side, they don't have anything there. But SOTA does use APRS as a backcountry option for things. And now what really got me going on, well, APRS, what am I going to do with this? I mean, really, I started going back through the history, right? Bob, by the way, I've actually had a great conversation with Bob, brilliant engineer. I have to admit, the few times that I actually got an email back from him, I think I had 2 or 1. Just the way he talks and the way he talks about this system is just absolutely amazing. And his plans for the future on it. And I don't even know if it will go much further than where it's at unless we get a lot of developers. Oh, look at that. My Windows laptop is now updating. I have some notes sitting on here too. That is awesome. Best time to update. This technology was developed for not only emergency communications, but also backcountry style communications as well. But it was actually the whole idea when he was applying this was I researched at the U.S. Naval Academy. And the reason why I did it here was my research has been here. I started here. And actually, when we don't have any coverage in the oceans, I had to do something that was similar. Now, AIS, actually, the commercial version of APRS is actually very similar. The protocols are almost matched up, but our side actually can do 10 times more than what the commercial radios are allowed by regulation to do. Granted, packets been out there for years, so AX25, email being sent early on. APRS IS actually introduced, hey, email gateway. You can type to email, type an email address, and send an email. You didn't have to be part of WinLink or anything else. But then WinLink came out. Well, how does that tie in? We'll discuss this a little more. But when we're talking about APRS, we also need to think about SOTA and POTA being backcountry, as well as POTA being, hey, I could drive up to do this as well. I know hikers that actually they're on a backpack and will hike out into a national park and activate. Granted, 2 of them are in California, not the best place to activate, but they're activating from national parks in the backcountry because they want to go out camping for the weekend, and hiking and getting on their feet, but they don't want a drive-up place to do this. So national parks, state parks with backpacking capabilities and so forth makes a great purpose for this, especially if, again, your 4G or the 4G LTE was a great data setup, but when we went to 5G, which the nation totally needs, because more spectrum needs to be eaten up by commercial. It was great. It had awesome reach. You might have to put in an extra cell repeater here, and even on the edge, you might be able to get a text out or a data burst out. Now, can our cell phones help us? Yes, they can in this, and this is definitely. Why use? How can it help us? Our cell phones can help us. They have a built-in radio called GPS. Okay. Has anybody ever heard of doing APRS on a Bofang? I know. Not the best way to talk about that, but it is possible.
All the time.
Cool. I love that. I love hearing that. I did a proof of concept on a Bofang. Yes, you can. I have actually 2 cables at the end of my desk here for activating, but I use the GPS off my cell phone for that idea as well. And it's really gotten interesting when I need help with the signal check. If I'm out, I can actually go, hey, guess what? Boom. Send a simple APRS packet with my little Bofang as an emergency option. Hey, can you find me on this HF frequency? Sure. Signal check, right? Get information about other activations. There are beacons out there that are now making 200, 300, 400, 500 mile points, depending on how you set up your beaconing with activation information, not only for SOTA, but POTA as well. Weather information for the area. Key, right? Make sure that you know what's going on with weather. Coming from a little bit of a pilot background, actual aviation pilot background, weather is very important, right? Wind, so forth, lightning. Some people don't ground. Hold on 1 second.
Drawbacks of Zoom.
All right, sorry about that. My son actually walked in to the office, was asking a question, and I guided him to the YL. Back to weather information on the area. Definitely know about the weather in the area. You don't want to get out there under a thunderstorm. Help others who care about you and know that you're safe. So the wife and I are actually possibly going out to California due to a family event in California. And we are not going to be announcing this trip. There's only a few people we want to know what we're going to be doing. And basically, it's going to be sleeping in the back of the F-250, and driving. So APRS.fi is going to be our key point behind there, and we're going to take the time to actually activate a couple parks on the way. But we gave over our call signs and APRS.fi to my dad and had him on a Google Hangouts the other night. And he was like, this is really cool. So I can actually watch where you're going across the country without cell service. I'm like, yep. He's like, this is really, really cool. What else do you do with technology and ham radio? So I told him about some other, the geo tracking for added information on events, right? You might want to track where you're at so you can add more information about your event that you're at or your activation. And again, SOTA and POTA spotting. Now, APRS service can be used. What can be used? I screw this up. What APRS services can be used? So when we're talking about services, we're talking about gateways, services that actually, it's basically a box, a radio in a box sitting somewhere that receives or sends, or both, right? iGate, DigiPeter, and a gateway. That gateway is basically a box with some custom software on it, and that has a either homemade or now commercially produced devices out there to get you over to the cell network, get you out to Twitter, get you out to standard email, check your WinLink box, and beacon information about your activation or events that are going on with you while you're driving or while you're mobile. That can be driving or can be on the back of a bike. I guess that would motorbike. I guess that would be mobile, but pedaling a bike. So when we're talking about SMS, right? Short message. So that's pretty much where SMS came from. Short message, something. But I just like the short message part to it because we're communicators, right? Let's get it as concise as possible. SMS, texting using SMS, it's pronounced gate, even though it's not actually the pronunciation. That's how the organization calls it. WinLink service can be used to basically send email to another fellow ham or send email in general from your WinLink email. I didn't put it in here. I do talk about it at the end, but on the service, there used to be a standard email gateway, and it used to be email. Now it's switched over to email 2, and I've been finding rumblings that email 2 will no longer be used in email 3 because of how the updated TNCs and radios are being built, that they have to use this gateway version instead. And it's hard to pull the call sign for the 2 field than just introducing a new one. Okay, I can see that. So I didn't put it in here. It's still being used. I don't talk about it as much. I do give a link where you guys can go and take a look at this a little bit more. All this has been experimentation. Early mornings, HRO, experimentation of texting my wife, hey, try this, some guidance here, playing with my FT2, going out playing with the FTM 400, and then maybe seeing where my packet is being sent if I drive off property. A whole bunch of that there at the house here and in backcountry and out dispersed camping. So a lot of this just comes from experimentation on my own. So nobody's funding this if I say APRS Droid or hey, Bionics or FTM 400 from Yaesu. There is no sponsorship in this talk whatsoever other than the Zoom meeting tonight. By the way, thank you for having me, everyone. The SMS gate, it's a gateway, like what we pronounced. This was launched in 2014. A great means of reaching loved ones, and it does work, and it does work very well. As an antenna builder myself, I love taking my FT2, used to be FT1, but now FT2, because I have fat fingers. Taking it out, throwing up my little Slim Jim ladder line antenna, running a piece of coax down, getting that 20 feet up in the air, and just texting my wife off of my FT2 and just sitting there on a hike having lunch. It's awesome. The one thing that is different seeing what I'm hearing from using this, especially for different things. Some radios now will only allow a limit of a short message to X number of characters. But on the return side, my wife has always been able, or the YL of the family has always been able to text me back directly by just texting the number back. No problem. In the directions that I have found and online, and there's other areas you can find more information about this, they say use the @ symbol, and you got to give some other information on the return and so forth. I'm not finding that in experimentation. If you find any different, let me know as we're going through, because I would love to compare notes. HTTPS is the protocol everybody's using these days for the web, and of course smsgte.org. Great way to find information about it. There are other sites out there that have great information and talk about how to use different capabilities on this. jpole-antenna.com. The ham that runs that does a great, not only YouTube version of how to use the FTM 400 for the SMS gate, but also a very good direction base that you can build a card with, how to do this. For the responding party, like I said, once you send everything out, you put in phone number, @ and get it sent off, boom. The gate will acknowledge, hey, you made it to an iGate, you made it into the internet, or you made it to a gate that says, yes, I've acknowledged I've sent this for you. And it means that they've received it. Nice part about some of the digital stuff out there today, I can see when my son receives his text. Same thing, same protocol still applies. Once it hits internet capabilities. Now, this part I've been finding varying results on, and this is the part I was talking about. For the receiving party to send the message on the phone, they have to start by the @ symbol, your call sign, and SSID. I will go with that right now because I found some references back to the old SMS GTE site, which is now moved over to the .org site that I referenced earlier. So that being said, in this version of the presentation, yes, that's the way to do it. Again, my personal experimentation, my wife's just, my daughter's just texting, my son is just texting me back, brought it right back to me. But what I did find, depending on the phone and version of Android, bless you, on the version of iOS, that my call sign comes across every time, or it doesn't, depending on the version of the texting app and so forth that they have in play at that time. So it's very interesting to see these different results. I am an Android developer as well, so I got Android device over here, and I got about 6 of them in there in the desk behind me, with varying versions of Android and native Android with the native SMS application on there. It acts differently on each one of those devices. So again, when advising the person on the other end, or if you're building out a directions card how to send back, you might have to use that symbol with your call sign and SSID. I use SSID 5 on my handhelds and on my APRS droid or APRS droid application. iOS has a different application out there. I'm not going to mention them. They come and go on iOS or Apple, but they do have a great APRS application out there right now that is working, and it's APRS app or Apple APRS, or it's something along those lines. Again, they come and go so quickly on that platform. But I am finding that the call sign may not be necessary anymore because it's auto-generated with text, and on the reply, it's already there. It's already held in some server's cache. As mentioned, the jpole-antenna.com and APRS text messaging. If you have any questions about where I got my sources, I'd be more than happy to email those to you guys later on. Any questions on the SMS gate at this point? Comments? Okay. I have a bad habit of hoarding information. So my phone is full of contacts for hams. So when in my phone, I have a ham list specifically, I hit ham radio, and that gives me all my contacts for ham radio. And ironically, in there is my wife's call sign. So that was quite interesting. When I was playing around with this and trying to text and everything, that's why I was using her as an example. But one of my friends here locally, we tried this while he's been out hiking and so forth. The one thing we did find is when using technology with APRS and using the SMS gateway, if you do not get an acknowledgement at all from the SMS gate, you did not make it through. When they text, so when my wife texted me, when my friend texted me, when I texted him, I don't get an acknowledgement that the ham on the other end, when my radio receives the APRS packet, it doesn't auto-generate a response packet or an acknowledgement packet. It's not part of the protocol. So they do not get a response that, yes, the message was delivered. Moving on, WinLink email. This gateway is known as APRS Link. It's been developed over time, and there are hundreds of references out there, too many to even list on this, of how to use this. Some are dated, some are current, some are in that between being updated phase. I just find going to winlink.org/APRS link is a great way to just keep up on the information. They're awesome at updating their organizational website. But I watch a gentleman on YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan. Sorry, it's how I live vicariously during the winter through other people, backpacking, finding out about new gear. But I do like ham radio crash course, and ironically, I've the presentations on the Longmont Amateur Radio Club's website are awesome to go and review. And that I was referring to the YouTube channel there that we were talking about earlier tonight. I visited a few times. Great way to watch some TV and spend some time talking about radio with the family. Going on YouTube, Tech Prepper, ham radio gentleman, new to the hobby, out in Arizona, loves the APRS protocol, loves this kind of stuff, but we're both on the same idea of always have a reference with you. For example, the nifty guides that you can buy. He actually clued me in on over here. I now have my own I was going to call it a steam sealer, but it's not. Laminator. Found it for $20 on Amazon. Got it delivered, and every 6 months I spend maybe $10 on lamination cards and so forth. And if I have to change anything, I just grab my template file based off of his that you can get, and I fill out this card with how to handle my APRS services. This is always updating. So APRS Link, again, is CMS hosted gateway. So it is basically, you have to have the CMS server software. You can host it if you have that server software as a club, as an individual, if you meet some requirements by the winlink.org. To do this, to read short messages from your account, and it will be your call sign at WinLink. There, you can send short messages to valid email address or WinLink 2000 user. Notice that this is now a little bit behind times because now it's WinRMS or whatever they're calling it now, instead of WinLink 2000. Perform email related maintenance. You can actually check, delete, send, update, a whole lot just through the APRS. You have full automated control of your WinLink box. Be notified of pending WinLink email via APRS messaging. So if there's pending one either going out or coming in that's pending in your inbox or outbox, you can be notified through APRS through a direct messaging. You can query for information on the closest WinLink RMS packet station. The gentleman KM4ACK, another technologist, love his channel. does a very good, and I also think he now has some Raspberry Pi scripts out there that will also aid in hooking up and digitalizing your station on finding the closest WinLink RMS station, packet station to you. So if you need to be out somewhere, you can also do research on, hey, I'm out in the backcountry, or I'm out in a place that I might not get an APRS digipeater, but there's a WinLink station near me. So again, preparing for your activation and doing a little bit of research of what's around you radio wise will be a great benefit to you in many aspects of being able to go out, being prepared for emergency, or even just being prepared for yourself without cell phone access, internet access, and if you're like me on the air, you don't get the activations quite as easily with the spots, because some people, oh, hey, he activated me, he must have somebody else spotting for him. So again, this is a great system and a service and a gateway to use if you have the ability to do so. I have played with this multiple times. The laptop that updated here, I used WinRMS. I used Pat WinLink on the station that's in front of me. The station that's behind me, which is torn up due to flooding on my basement, I had to tear up everything and put it back together, so I got a pile of radio stuff over here now. This station is now dedicated on a Raspberry Pi on battery power, but I still use a web-style based service such as Pat WinLink, but I can still do most of what I need to with the Raspberry Pi and a 12-volt TV used as a monitor that I could take out with the Raspberry Pi 4 and use Pat WinLink, hook up my station, digitalize it on a little 2-meter Go box I have, and now I got my APRS capable using Exaster, and I can do most of everything I need to do from keyboard and mouse on a Raspberry Pi right there in the park, and that includes WinLink. Or I can just WinLink out if I'm at a point where I can get a 2-meter packet gateway as well. So there's a lot of capabilities just with APRS and WinLink combined. Before I move on to direct messaging, this is probably the most interesting piece of APRS, and it's still I'm still getting into why direct messaging is this really that useful, and I'll get into some examples here of it. Is there any questions about the WinLink portion that we talked about? Awesome. Great. I hope this has been clear enough for everybody. Now here comes the more complicated piece, right? Direct messaging. Callsign to Callsign through APRS. It can be simplex based 100%. It can be digitalized with a net control station with some assets in the field for an event. For example, races. I heard the the burro races. That's what was going on last weekend. I know another ham that was helping over there, Mark, by the way. She spoke of you very highly when I talked to her just this last week. And when we were talking about the burro races, and we were talking about how net control works. The interesting part is that it's amazing the style of not only tactical communications, but just basic ham to ham communications that could take place just by either a touch screen, for example, off your smartphone, with your Bofang off a radio that has a touch screen on it. Example, the FTM 400, the FT3DR, which if you did not see, Yaesu just announced also the FT5DR coming out. New handheld radio was just announced this week. So all with APRS capability, touchscreen, and being able to type out your messages and build and put in pre-stored messages. So if you have a ham that you're like, hey, I'm going out, boom, I'm back, just for safety reasons in the backcountry, right? Somebody knows your plans. Excuse me. grounding my antenna due to lightning down near me. The idea of being able to use a radio for this is key, but almost any radio can do this. Using TNC and computer software, as I talked about, Exaster, a Raspberry Pi, sound modem can be in place of this, a software sound modem, Direwolf, GPS enabled smartphone, sound cable to radio. So APRS Droid can do is a built-in sound card, software-based sound card on your APRS device. That was a little closer than expected. If you lose me, it means the battery backup just blew out, tube running out in the house. I just heard them click over twice here, so I do apologize. And of course, MobiLinked. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this. It's a great TNC. If you look up MobiLinked online, it's a IoT based or Internet of Devices based TNC, Bluetooth capable. They also have some guides on there how to hack us and how to build your own TNC. So you can build on this based on the Arduino and Raspberry and some other platforms out there if you decide to do so. But they also sell cables to connect the TNC to your radio. So Yaesu radio, Kenwood, Bofang, doesn't matter. They sell pretty much anything from their little Bluetooth TNC, and all you need is a smartphone. You don't even have to have the phone technically active on cell service. Smartphone GPS enabled, and APRS Droid, for example, and I believe the Apple APRS or App APS or the name still eludes me. I do apologize. Also has the capability to Bluetooth over to the MobiLink devices. So my ID51 that normally does not, as a handheld, do APRS, but does D-Start APRS, I can now actually tune to 144.390 megahertz, plug in my MobiLink, and I now have APRS on an ICOM radio, standard APRS. And the list goes on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Any radio, any way you can get it connected to a TNC or sound modem, sound card, anything, and they're out there. This is where I should have the thing, go experiment, go play as a ham. To create the message is actually really simple. Exaster is a good example of using this. Pat WinLink has a very similar interface, but just enter a call sign into the to field, and it's always the to field. And that's on the Kenwood radios, that's on the Yaesu radios. There was another radio brand out there I forgot, but that you could enter the to field on. In the message field, which it's either MSG or message on the newer touchscreens, such as the FTM 400, and I think the 300 also has a touch interface, but I do not think it has the full keyboard on it. Either way, you can still enter a message and about your activation, ask for a spot, right? Throw that information in there and beacon the message out. That means send the message. Beacons out does not. Now, the one thing a lot of people are like, well, GPS, you mentioned GPS a couple of times. Well, in the direct messaging, Yaesu has a need to have your GPS unit on. It does not have to send your location. So be aware that there are two types of messages. If you just hit standard beacon, it will send location and other information such as speed, course, heading, based on the radio. Or if you do, I think it's STX beacon, a little bunched up button. You send that, it will actually beacon the actual direct message, not your positioning information and anything else. It's dedicated to the direct messaging. Some radios can be set up. For example, the old Kenwood, was it the DG710, 700? Actually can be set up with an automatic response that acknowledges that, yes, you did receive this as a ham. The FTM 400 is believed to have this. I still have not found it. I've been through a lot of the manual, still have not found an automatic reply for the APRS direct messaging. If it's there, please inform me. I would love to know where it's at so I could play with my 400 on that. And APRS Droid can have the same capability as well. So if you're using a mobile link device or even a sound modem to your Bofang or Kenwood compatible, pin compatible radio, can also be set up to automatically beacon out and acknowledge that, yes, I did receive this. Any questions on direct messaging? It's pretty simple. It can get complicated, but it's great for tactical communications, just instant messaging, literally text messaging between hams without the actual need for a cell phone.
I don't on direct messaging, Jeremiah, but I did forget to mention on WinLink, there is a WODE WinLink on Android now that you can use as well. That works very well.
Awesome. And I have not yet played with that.
It works great with Mobile Link D on a Baofeng.
Nice. Love to hear that. Love to hear that. That is, yes, there is a purpose for the bow. I mean, if it's just a cheap Go kit to put together, right?
Yeah.
It's easy. And it can be used for emergency communications or just sending your activation information. I love to hear that. I don't know if you guys have also heard, but as a developer, I love seeing people say, oh, by the way, this is out there. This is out there. You can sideload or root your Android device, however you want to put that. You can actually sideload a Android version of FL Digi onto your Android phone now. So there's another way you can actually interact directly with APRS through FL Digi, and things go crazy on that. There are a few videos out there on it. I'm finding more text-based information on the internet than compared to videos. They are a little bit hard to follow, but you can get into more digital modes with built-in sound modem depending on your phone's capabilities. Now here's your new sound card, right? External to the radio. So very excited on this kind of stuff. These digital protocols, especially packet, is something I've been trying to get my head wrapped around, and I finally got some of it wrapped around. When my packet station goes back up, eventually there will be a digipeater behind me as well that will be fun to watch. I've reached out to a couple other people, so if you're interested in aiding in this as well, I'm in the process of building out a digipeater for the field. That being said, I've been trying to do some research on how would this be applicable for a mesh network or high-speed ham radio. And I finally found a solution to that. So I've been setting this up, and ironically, in my adventures, I found, I don't know if anybody's ever played with the TNCX Pi. Yep. Notice that he went out of business.
Yes.
Yeah.
MFJ, I think, makes them now for its place.
And I'll tell you, they are at a great price. Ham Radio Outlet is now carrying them. I actually, once I saw that MFJ put it on their website, the first thing I did was went down to our POS and was like, hey, is it there? We carry it. Awesome. Great. Where are they? There's 2 in the country. I ordered one in, bought it, walked out the door, been playing with it ever since. Best thing I could have ever done. Because now that just actually reduced the size of my digipeater for this. So the nice part is that you can actually take your own digipeater out into the field. There's nothing saying you can't put a station stealth into the field as a digipeater up higher to get you out of the park, right? Granted, now more people out in the backcountry, make sure it's chained down. My little mobile one I put out with my little whoosh on radio ironically disappeared. They left the antenna. I don't know why, but my little ammo box disappeared. But it was a great way to get up and over mountains, great way to get me broader range. I could just drop the box, throw up a little Slim Jim antenna, stealth, a little camouflage, kind of my favorite color pattern. Left it there and came back for it, gone. But it did work, and it did make a great way for me to digipede in the area. Again, it works, it gets the message out. Can I activate? Yeah, I can activate. I can send my positional information. And I didn't think it was working. And then I realized Key part, know the settings on your radio. Direct email. This is where the slide that I was talking about that. And I threw in the picture here. Actually, this is from the APRS website. I did ask permission before using this. These are the radios I was talking about that was in the day and age that we were talking about. How can we get information out? The BX8R is great radio. I have one. Been trying to hunt down like 4 more. Hard to find. Great radio. But it's one of these ones that you could actually send an email with through a direct email gateway. I put in the information for the direct email gateway right here. It keeps getting, the information on there is good. It's still applicable in some areas where these gateways are still being used. But here in Colorado, we have a divide. Somewhere north of Denver, there is a email gate that is the old just straight email on there. Now south, southeast, west, I don't know where, haven't found it yet. There is another gateway that is the email 2 only. So it's email -2. And then I've heard rumblings, seen rumblings, and people UK APRS and US APRS are talking about now an email -3. So this is the area of confusion. Is this gateway still applicable? Is it still up? Or is this being pulled down in favor of the WinLink APRS link? Unknown as this time. I wish I had more information for you guys. But these are the radios I was talking about that are the older radios that were not the dinosaurs, but the actual hardworking radios of their day with duty cycles that actually kept up with the radio, and you're not sending it back for repair, or that actually did the trick for us. These radios are used to that gateway. I know that the D710 actually had a special memory channel. I believe on the original version of the D710 had a memory channel specifically for the email gateway. But that being said, I think they pulled out in firmware updates in the newer versions of the D710 due to this confusion of, is it WinLink? Is it just direct email? Does it go to an email server? Long story short, I have no answer for you on that. But it did work. I've seen it work when I was installing internet radios in California. Happened to be sitting with a ham early 2004, 2006. And he was like, I should show you some digital stuff. And that's where my introduction to actual ham packet came into play. Research and experiment as this point, right? It's how can we use it to get our activation information out? Obviously, there's different services out there, different areas will allow us to explore the parks more. I hope so. Can it get us out there? Can I use this in an emergency? You betcha. If there's no cell information and you have a Slim Jim, I always carry a little Slim Jim antenna in my day pack, even when I'm fishing. I love them. I carry a little bit of paracord, which doubles up duality and disaster preparedness. Poncho for a shelter, vice versa, kind of thing. I love those Slim Jim antennas. All you need to do is get up 10, 18 feet above you with a rock and some paracord. It makes a great antenna and it gets you out even further. Height is might. Please research, experiment on your own. Please come back, talk to me. My email is very easy. I'll give it to you here. It is n0kmo@n0kmo.com. I know it's vanity, but at least it reminds me of what my call sign is. Use the bands before we lose them. And that's another thing. I've also been reading of experimentation of actually pushing APRS packet actually out, and a possibility that if we use the band on the 1.25 meter band, that Kenwood might, before the shutdown, might have picked up an APRS capability in the 1.25 meter as a receiving aspect and decoding. I was like, this is amazing. So we don't have to stick to 2 meters. What about 440? There used to be more APRS talking 440. The true fact of it is that APRS is packet. It can be delivered anywhere. Do we have to use our 144.390? Yeah, if you're communicating outside of a group, you want to be known nationwide, locally, depending on how you set up your beaconing. Yeah, can you use APRS on another packet frequency that, of course, is coordinated? Yes, you can. There's no reason why we can't. A good club to actually talk about is landops.org, and they have been doing some amazing stuff with overlanding, using APRS resources, HF communication operations, net control operations, and education, and how to use ham off grid. And they set up APRS nets in different areas for search and rescue and so forth. So if you get a chance, look up LandOps, go to their website, maybe become a member, talk, read their playbook, watch some YouTube as well. They got some great information, just like the LARC club does. Great information as well. I've referred a lot of people over to LARC in the way of go get some information as well. So thank you again for having me. But before we end the night, this is just a kind of reminder. This was pulled from just a random website, looking at the update on the page and looking at archive. This is what Colorado looks like right now. I'm hoping in the next couple years at our radio sport, POTA, we'll start taking on a new meeting for people of getting out, getting to a park, enjoying some socialization with some family, other hams, maybe throwing out an APRS packet. Hey, I'm here kicking back with a barbecue. I am on 20 meters or 40 meters. Please spot me. I don't have cell service, but you know what? Love to get in contact with you. So that being said, let's grow the sport and let's grow Colorado. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Jeremiah. I appreciate it. Actually, I got one about, what was I going to say about APRS? You were talking about different frequencies. The ISS has a
Yep.
different APRS frequency as well.
Yes.
So you could do APRS packets off the ISS. Not done it yet, but I know a couple people that have.
It's interesting.
That's what I hear.
I've been on the receive side with my FT2. I threw up just one night, was out camping, and just put on a directional Yagi home built. You know, the Harbor Freight tape measures.
Yep, that's what I got.
Yep, pointing to the sky, put on a tripod, sat there with my FT2, tuned into the frequency, and just waited. And sure enough, they came by. Got one packet from them, and that was it. But it was cool. It really is.
Yeah. That's on my bucket list. I've been playing with satellites, so hoping to do that as well when I go out and do POTAs.
I've
All right,
got a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Um,
You make questions? Go ahead.
I did my first ever POTA thing. I activated State Forest State Park a few days ago when I was camping. All I could get going was FT8, and I don't quite understand that logging situation. I mean, I called CQ POTA and got like 13 contacts. So I guess I'm a legit activator. I also answered some CQs. I had a guy in New Zealand showed up, and so I pounced on him. Do I put that contact in my log as well, just so that, you know, he's probably never heard of POTA for all I know? Or do I filter those out before I submit the log?
So the interesting part is when you actually go look at the POTA rules, it's a contact. Technically, you don't have to even send your RST report. You don't have to, the only thing you need to make is a contact, right? And log it. So I would, especially if it being DX on POTA, right? I definitely would.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. As long as you're in a park, within the boundaries of a park that's listed as a POTA park. I think this is what the rules say. Because we tried, there's a location up near Rocky Mountain National Park where it borders where Arapahoe National Forest, where we were trying to activate both parks at the same time. And for a radar. And unfortunately, it didn't happen, but it was fun just to see if we could, make it happen. And you talked about Jason KM4 ACK. We had him on as a speaker earlier this year. So a lot of folks know about his Build-A-Pi. A couple of us actually use the Build-A-Pi on a Raspberry Pi with a VNC connection on our tablets, and that's how we do digital out in the parks and stuff. It's a lot lighter and easier to take, and I have a battery backpack and for my Pi, and I'm ready to go. So
Yeah, I saw that he came on. Unfortunately, I missed it during that time. I love love his channel. I didn't realize until probably a year into watching his channel, he has an IT background. And I was like, oh, sweet. And that's when I started reaching out to him.
Yeah.
On some of the stuff. And yeah, definitely, it was awesome to see that he was able to support the state.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy, and W0KKI got in contact with him and got him to come out and talk to us, and we did a little. It was a very informal presentation, but it was very fun. It was more of a question and answer than it was a formal presentation like you did here, which was asked, is it possible to get a copy of your presentations?
Yeah, I can share it out.
Okay.
It's on my Google Drive. So.
Yeah, if you'd send it to me or Mike, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So does anybody have any questions? Comments?
I had a couple of things.
Sure.
Well, one thing was, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there is a way to spot yourself on the POTA site via APRS. I haven't tried it, but I did read about it. If you search Google for POTA spot APRS, 3 separate words, the first entry that popped up is actually a question from Jason KM4ACK asking about it. And then there's a reply from someone on the POTA side that gives the APRS service call sign, which is POTA GW, and the format of the message to spot someone.
They finally finished that.
Yeah, I think they might have said it's still kind of in a beta type status, but it is supposed to be up. So that's something you can do to get on direct. And I was wondering, you mentioned that the POTA people said they wouldn't allow an APRS, person-to-person type contact. I know, at least I think on the Kenwood radios, when you send an APRS message, or when you receive it, I should say, you see the path that message followed. Do you think they would accept a message that did truly go station to station, not through a digipeater?
And so we've been talking about logging too, right? So that's the thing, is that if we can actually trace that path, that it's full simplex, according to the rules, right? It's simplex. It doesn't mean that it cannot be a simplex contact that's relaying, right? So if somebody on 40 meters is hearing me, but I'm trying to get out, it doesn't mean that they can't relay the contact. It's still simplex.
Okay.
So,
yeah, and I was wondering if that would also cover things like if you were to do WindLink but did a P2P contact, so it's just radio to radio, not going through a CMS. I would assume that would perhaps count as well.
Yeah.
Or, again, except for how to log it.
Right. How do you log that? That's the question, because some of their logging. Oh, wow. I didn't even notice at the time. YL is asking if we're going to the gym tonight. Yes, we are. But yeah, when I fired off the email, the response I got was, unfortunately, with it being a packet possibly repeated protocol, how do you prove somebody didn't doctor up an image, or how do you log that, right? I would just say, hey, if we got an acknowledgement back and forth, wouldn't that count? Get into the logbook, and just put on frequency, what is it, 144.390, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
okay.
That was and like I said, this is all just personal experience and comes from there. Like I said, I knew about the gateway, and I knew that they were working on it. I didn't even know that they had posted anything on it out public yet. So that's awesome. That gateway is now coming active. So APRS, right there, POTA gateway, definitely for your spots.
Yeah, and when we were up at El Dorado Canyon and did the last LARC POTA activation, there was heavy APRS activity up there. So that would have definitely been something we could have used if I'd known about it before we went up there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I do know, like every other organization in the U.S., a lot of their volunteers took a big hit during 2020.
Yeah. Okay. And had a question. You mentioned I know you used to do the mapping for the POTA in Colorado. Are parks only added when someone requests them, or do the mapping people actively go out there and search for ones that haven't been added yet?
So
or does it kind of depend on the person?
It kind of depends on the person. So I submitted 4 locations that I went, and my criteria was I would have to personally go see that location, which early on was not too difficult. I was all over the state, but yeah, it was. Now we have requirements. In 2020, there was an organizational change, and there's a new administrator for the mappers. And that administrator basically gave us guidelines. When we submit, we have to have the east-west longitude and latitude, or north, the longitude and latitude of the location. There has to be a website that references the regulations. What else? It has to be a government entity that fits national, state, and they were kind of edging on local, but it was not really like focused on. So local being like, what is it, Garden of the Gods, right? I mean, that's technically a park. It is managed by the city, but the way it's managed, I think it took a while to get on there, but I now think that is an actual location. You'd have to double check. I know it was trying to be pushed when I was mapping. So depends on the person. You can always send a location. What I suggest is latitude, longitude, and website, and of course name as well. And then what they will do is the mapper will take that information and say, okay, yes, it does meet the minimum criteria. We push it on to the higher authorities, and then they take and say, yes, this is now entity number, so forth. It's now added to the database. Please respond to anybody in like kind.
Okay.
And I had a question as well.
Yeah.
If you're, I know can you do part of it like on FT8, and then have part of it on phone, or do you need to stay on whatever frequency you were spotted on for the duration? And if you wanted to do phone and FT8, you'd basically end up doing 2 activations?
No, it's a single activation. It's 10 contacts, simplex communication, digital, single sideband, AM, whatever means. I mean, FM, it does not matter as long as it's simplex and it's 10. So if you did 3 on FT8 and that's all you could get due to some propagation issue, and you moved over to single sideband and got another, let's say 6 over there. So now you're at 9 contacts, but for some reason, band conditions, cloud move in, the only thing you could do is a simplex contact on 146.520 to, let's say, Bryan, AF0W. That's your 10th.
Okay, so whatever frequency you're putting in the spot, you don't have to necessarily stay there. I guess that was more of the question, as you kind of move around, whether it's band conditions or whatever.
So when you look at the spots, as a matter of fact, the cool thing is you can look at them. They're also using Slack, which paid for service. I think it's quite interesting, but every once in a while I'll see across Slack come across somebody that's out doing this like in the afternoon, just on a day. I'll see them QSY up to, and they'll put in a new frequency because band conditions are adjusting due to the time of day and solar activity, right? So a matter of fact, actually, one of the park-to-parks that I was working on Sunday, the way I found him was the spot, because I had cell service in the canyon. Noticed a spot, we went there, and we just threw out park-to-park, nothing. We sat there for a little bit, rotated the antenna a little bit, and played around just to experiment with HF and, of course, New Ham, nothing. And I go back to his spot, and his comment, he spotted himself QSYing up to another frequency. Went up, and we got him on that frequency, actually. Same part.
Same part. So is there also, how long when you activate, how long do you have to get your 10 contacts? Is there kind of a limit that from a Zulu time, or is it a day, or if you're there for the weekend, you can?
I think it's pretty much to activate the park. I think it's a 24-hour clock period UTC.
Okay.
I think your activation ends at, you only get credit up until 00 Zulu time, which around here right now is 6 p.m.
Yep.
So if you started at 4 or 5 o'clock, you need to have your 10 by 6 o'clock. Otherwise, it counts as a different activation.
But at 6:01, you could start activate for the next day.
Yeah.
And start 24-hour clock. So, I mean,
yep.
It's a matter of when you start and how long you go for. So that's why we did a lot of ours in the afternoon for a couple hours, 3 to 4 hours the most. Figure if we can't make 10 contacts in 3 to 4 hours, then propagation is either no good or we're doing something wrong.
Right. And, you know, you're operating the same station as well. I have never seen, and, you know, I'm kind of a rule pusher sometimes. I like pushing my junior software guys a little bit like, hey, I know you can break the rules a little bit on the software industry by doing something like this. Give it a try. So I guess the other argument I've never asked them was, as a club, right? You go out as W0 ENO. Yep, ENO.
Yep.
And you have a digital station, right? FTA. You have a single sideband station. You have a CW station. It's still the same call sign. Different frequency, different mode, but still the same call sign, right? So can you use every station simultaneously, even though it's a different control operator under the club call sign to activate the park at once?
That'd be interesting because that would make radar a lot easier. You could just take one station to different parks and everybody could be activated at the same time under the same call sign.
Right.
Yeah, we've never done it as a club call sign. We always use our individual call signs. One of these days, I will probably get the club signed up as a club for POTA and do it on the club call sign. But right now, we're just using individual call signs.
Yeah, that's the, and that's been a question because I have my club call sign actually, and I was like, I wonder if this would be the case. And I actually asked that question, and so I just haven't emailed it off. Because there's so many ways you can do that, right? Just like what you said, if you want to do radar, you can activate so many parks at once, right? And have everybody rotate through the park on different modes. So there's a lot of questions behind it, but yeah, it'd be interesting to find out.
That would be. Do you know of a lot of clubs that activate under the club, or is it more individuals than clubs?
So I know it's more individual because, you know, I know PRA actually does. They have their portable ops and all their crazy stuff they do. They love doing portable. They do parks on the air every once in a while. September they will be doing a Southern Colorado parks SOTA on the air. Excuse me, Summits on the air. But they do a park on the air activation in spring and so forth. I've never asked them if they've done their club, to be honest with you. But most of the time I just see them using individual call signs.
Okay. Yeah, we have a go box for LARC. That's what we use to take out and activate. And the reason I like doing it the way we're doing it is we have a lot of people that come out that's never done it before, or have never seen a 7300 before because our go box has a 7300 in it.
Yep.
So it's kind of a great learning experience, kind of like what you're doing as well. And sometimes people learn more than, and to me, if we don't activate a park, we don't activate a park. But somebody learned something that day, so it was a good day, type scenario.
Yeah, great. And I can't argue the benefit of somebody learning compared to contesting, right?
Mm-hmm. And we have the D710 GA in there as well. So,
if there's any in stock anywhere in the country, if you could find them, now's the time to buy a replacement version.
Yeah, I haven't seen any. So,
yeah,
but hard to find just about anything these days.
Yeah, it is. Well, I don't know. You guys asked me an HRO question. I can answer it a little bit. So the interesting part is, I don't know if you remember well, I'm sure you guys do, but we were still doing curbside, which we were not originally set up to do, but our shelves were empty. I mean, there were times where actually you would order from us, we would have to actually order it in to get it onto the table to deliver to you on curbside. And it was amazing to see at the end of last year and the beginning of this year to see those shelves empty. It's the first time I've ever seen any HRO or electronic store that empty.
Speaking of which, I do have a question. You were saying that they sell the TNCXs, NFJ. Do they sell the different cables for the different radios as well?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Because I was working with, I forget the guy's name who does the cables for MobileLink D. Cables, I forget what the name of his company is. But I was communicating with him because he didn't have a cable listed for the Anytone was A58, the mobile Anytone DMR radio.
Yeah.
he didn't have a cable for that. So he actually built one, sent it to me, and I kind of beta tested it for him. It didn't work. So, you know, there are some radios that it may not work with, just so you know. They're still trying to figure out how to, you know, how to put it together, but I haven't found anybody that's done a cable for that. So but I do have one for my, my Yaesus. So the 897, my FT100, they all use the same pin outs. So I can just use the Mobile Link D on those.
I thought it was interesting when the 578 came out, because I thought I'm pretty sure, I know that the 878, that is the Kenwood standard for the cables. And I know that I know that Anytone was kind of sticking with that. But there's been an allegement that Anytone and Alinco are now one organization.
Okay.
So it would be interesting to see what comes out of that, because the Alinco side actually has the 135 or the 35 series radios that actually have the built-in TNCs in them as well.
Okay. Yeah, I wish the Anytones did, but it's a nice radio for APRS and DMR and all that. I mean, it works great. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's other so if you need like cables for that, there's other companies out there that are also doing that as well.
Okay.
So just
I'll check with them.
And the other thing is, if you need like a sound cable specifically, look up Tigertronics, because they build their sound cables based on the radios and the pinouts
For the signal link, or for the, yeah.
Yeah. And most of the time they have to use the mic port.
Okay. I've checked that out. Yeah, my signal link, I've actually been playing with that with my FT100, trying to get data to work on it. It receives, but I can't get it to do the push to talk. So I had to do some playing with it, and got rid of the FC20 that came with it, set it aside, and I'm now using one of those ATU 100s and trying that. So I can use the CAT capability.
It's been interesting to see like what's going on with the 100s, and some other the cables. I know the FTM 400, the 100, the 3, not the 3, the FT1. They all had some interesting cable configurations. So if you're looking for like cables for the FTM 100, look at a part CT168. I have 3 of those lying around here. They actually convert your 10 pin down to a standard 6 pin.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? I'm kind of hogging it here for Jeremiah. Thank you again for the presentation. It was great information.
I had a comment.
Go ahead.
So KB9 VBR posted a video recently of how to use JS8 call to spot yourself using POTA. And since you already have your CAM for ACK Build a Pi out in the field with you, it has JS8 call on it, so you can spot yourself. And since you're already using HF, no need to, bring out your APRS, HT, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a way to spot yourself through APRS, IS as well, using JS8 call.
Yeah. Who was it? OHA STN?
STN, yeah, Julian.
Julian, he does a great off-grid, mesh networking with JS8 call. He does quite a few with it, actually, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like his favorite thing. He's always posting on Instagram about JS8 call and chameleon antennas.
Yes, and chameleon. But yeah, I know JS8 call has that capability, so HF ways you can do it. I mean, there's other ways to do this. It was just, this was an adventure I went down, and I'm glad to see that the gateway is coming alive, because it's definitely needed. And hopefully one of these days we can actually get a, I can't remember if JS8 call is actually, if it is allowed for simplex for POTA or not. I know FT8 is, and I know pretty much most digital nodes are, but I know APRS does not count as a direct simplex as this point.
I would think JS8 call would be, because that's still technically simplex, isn't it? Because it's
It is simplex, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So
it should, because it falls under with JT65, FT8, FT4, all those other protocols.
agreed. Definitely agreed. Yeah. Because reading the rules, it's interesting. Anything simplex, to Brian's comment, right? You can trace the route, right? JS8 call, you can do the same thing. You can trace the route. So, anyways, it was wonderful being here. I know it's getting late for everybody, 9 o'clock. I have a workout I got to go to. Have a wonderful night all. So,
Thank you so much.
Jeremiah, thank you much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Like the t-shirt, by the way.
oh, this?
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got this one actually in 2013 at the W3C conference in San Francisco.
Nice.
Nice.
Actually, no, that it wasn't. That was at the jQuery conference in San Francisco. That was fun. Got to meet John himself. That was awesome.
Cool.
Have a wonderful day, guys.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone. Appreciate it. We'll meet again next month.
All right.
Let's see, I think, when was it? Well, yeah, Monday and Tuesday weren't all that bad. But propagation was pretty poor today.
Okay, well, I need to,
On 20 meters anyway.
yeah, I need to try to get back on HF. That's been kind of on the back burner.
Now, Tuesday night, when our 40-meter net was going, you know, we have people sign in from all around the nation, east, west, north, south, etc. It was pretty good. We had about 15 people scattered around the nation, and I was able to hear all 15 on the local receiver. I did not have to resort to an internet SDR.
Oh, that's good.
I've got about 4 different internet SDRs that I kind of rely on for the 20 meter.
I haven't used any of those yet. I know a lot of people, there's one in Salt Lake that a lot of people use. But I haven't done that. I'm still ancient. You'll have to teach me the new tricks one of these days.
You just go to the get the URL for the SDR you want and click on it and pick your frequency and your mode, and it'll well, you can set it up so it'll remember all your settings. So from one time to the next, you don't have to redo everything. But I use 4 SDRs. One's out of Half Moon Bay, Washington. 2 of them are out of Utah, and one's out of let's see, Virginia. So I pretty well cover the nation. So I get you know, what I can't hear on the local receiver, I can hear on the SDR.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, those work really well. Northern Utah SDR, just type that into your browser and it'll bring it up, and they have more than just one there. I think there's 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's 4 of them. I used Utah number 2 and number 4 and number 1.
Yeah, I use number 1 because with my compromised antenna, I don't get out that well, but they can all hear me on the SDR, and I join a net 7130 at 2330 Zulu on Fridays, but they meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Saturday morning. I just join them on Fridays.
Yeah, okay. Well, my 20 meter net meets at let's see, 9 o'clock local time every day of the year. And the 40 meter net meets only of an evening, 7:30 on Tuesdays. And then there's a net called Over the Hill Gang net. They meet weekdays only from about 8:30 local to 9:30 local. It's nice. You build some camaraderie there with guys across the nation.
Yeah, it works good. There's a fellow in Henderson, Nevada, and I never can hear him direct. So I always catch him on SDR, but the guys in Kansas come in pretty good. A fellow in Utah, and I beg your pardon, Idaho, and a guy in southern New Mexico. Usually I hear them direct pretty well, but that guy in Nevada, never. If he's talking at all, I got to listen to the SDR or can't hear him.
Yeah. Well, there have been some really poor propagation days in the last year, but it's been steadily improving. At least I think the trend is improving for about the last month or so.
Little by little.
Little by little, that's right.
Yeah, I managed to get a 20/9 report from a guy in southern Utah on 12 meters.
Oh,
I
okay.
fell out of my chair because I had him on the broadband terminated dipole. I'm probably putting 25 watts out when we're all done.
Yeah. I've got my Kenwood set up with let's see, I think about well all the way from 80 up through 6 meters, 80, 40, 20, 15, 17, 12, and 10, and 6. And I've set it up frequency wise, except on 6 meters, to center dial just by pushing a button. And usually what I do, and I haven't really done it so much this last week, is I'll go down 2-3 times a day and just pull up the band that I want, punch in the center frequency, and just put out a CQ. And most of the time I don't hear anything on the upper band, but I almost always hear something on 80 and 40. But there for a while, a year or so ago, 12 meters was coming in pretty good too. A lot of Japan stations back then. That's been about a year ago.
Yeah, Japan's not been too open lately. I worked at, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe, pretty good. And in fact, in October, I worked a guy that I worked in 2002 from Japan. And I worked him again last October, and I'd only had 2 contacts in 2002 on HF. So I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, there's several of them that I've worked multiple times and forgot about it. And when I went to log them in, it told me that I'd already talked to them 3 or 4 times over the years.
Well, I have a little advantage over a lot of stations in that I speak enough Japanese. I can carry on a QSO with a Japanese ham.
Oh, hey, that's great. Good.
Yeah, I reply in Japanese when they're calling CQ, and man, they'll come right back to me.
How about that?
日本語がわかります。Haven't seen you in a while, Dick.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How's your business going?
Business is excellent.
Good.
Sold another party today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so now I have one every month, clear till Christmas, and got one day in Christmas already sold out.
Goodness gracious.
So yeah, it's going good. I have to be really careful because I'm not sure how many dealers I'm going to have available this year with the COVID, and I'm trying to limit it to 30 dealers a night that I have to have, and until we can discover whether we're going to have enough to have 40 or 50 dealers available.
Well, what is your business, Dick?
I own a casino party company.
Oh,
We do fundraisers and corporate events, and I do a lot of stuff for some of the high schools fundraisers for sports programs and after prom, and do a lot of private birthday parties.
oh, great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So Ed and I have been continuing our Friday night CW QSOs since you dropped out from our practice sessions. So we kept that going.
Yeah, my son's taking a full-time job, and so I've really been quite busy. So
Yeah.
not going to change for a while. He's probably going to work there at least a year, because I don't think we'll have enough business to support him full-time and me part-time. So that's too bad, but this COVID is killing everything.
And life gets in the way.
And old age.
No, we don't talk about that.
Everybody's staying free of the COVID, I hope.
Oh, yeah. No issues here.
Yeah. What this reminds me of is two-tone intermods. So we got the first sweep, we went down, and we're coming back up again. So reminds me of two-tone intermods.
Well, you know it was going to happen, so. It's a virus. It's going to be around forever.
I think it's something we're going to end up having to live with.
Oh, yeah. Just like all the viruses.
Well, like the flu, we do it once a year.
Yeah. Most people get immune to it eventually, and then, we go on to the next one.
So CNC had, in 8 months after our second shot, we're supposed to get a booster. They were throwing that out today.
Yeah, I heard that.
No boosters for us. I think we're done with that stuff.
Rather get an amplifier.
Yeah.
A lot depends how many people you're going to be around. You're going to be around a lot of people. Better get the updated one, and I'm suspecting that within the mRNA protocol, they'll be able to cover the D variant in the, what the hell's the other one, L or something.
Oh,
Well,
we'll
I
see.
guess there's a new one in the offing, or Loa or Loma or something.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be around forever. Might as well get used to it. We just live our lives.
There you go.
So Don, what scope is behind you? Is that an HP or a Tech?
Oh, gosh. It's a Gould.
Gould.
Friend of mine gave it to me. He worked for Seagate, and they were buying all new scopes, and they were going to throw it out. So he took it, and he never used it. So he gave it to me. Ed WA70M came over and showed me how to use it, actually.
Just had to ask.
Yeah, sure.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Got a nice big
Good
crowd
evening.
starting. This is good.
Yeah. People are bored. They're on early tonight.
I guess so. I'm actually working, so I'm playing on a sandbox. We're looking at trying to revamp the website. So
I haven't been on for quite a while. This is the first time I've seen you with a mustache there, Chuck.
yeah, I had a beard at one point.
Well, the mustache looks good on you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It makes me look a little bit more mature, because when I shave it, I look like I'm 12 when I'm actually 50. So
Well, my wife tells me I act like I'm 12.
oh, mine tells me that with a mustache or without, so it doesn't matter. I'm like, thank you. I want to stay young at heart forever.
There you go. That's right.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes, sir.
I meant to get a hold of Steve and I didn't. Somehow or another, I got an extra copy of this ARRL, the Doctor is In book. And if you guys want it for a giveaway or something, you can have it.
He should be on tonight. He didn't say he wasn't going to be, so you can get a hold of Mr. Schaefer. He should be on here before too long. Would ask if you would please put your call sign next to your name. We'd appreciate it. Makes it easier for Pat to take notes and we can track you down.
Yeah, that's what we need. Tracking you down.
I actually talked to a guy this morning, actually has license for a couple of years, moved from Maryland to Texas, is not using it. A new employee at where I work. And I'm like, you got to get back on the air. All the fun stuff that's going on.
Yep.
Nice background, Roman.
What's that?
Nice background.
Thanks. Do you know them?
Was that little? No, I don't know. I forgot what.
There's
on Parks and Rec.
No, there's a park on like Arapahoe close to I-25, or Dillon Road close to I-25, and then just abutting the park there's this farm, and there's these two donkeys, and so like like when the kids are walking around the pond, some people bring carrots and apples to the donkeys, so we did one day.
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Was that for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the Zoom site going to have the same ID and password from here on, or do we have to?
That is the plan. That is the plan. I have it set up for the rest of the year using the same password and login, and same password and same participant meeting ID.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. We've been doing that in our church ever since this COVID thing started.
Yeah, I meant to do that, and I just kept slipping my mind, and I kept changing it, and I finally sat down and just did it right. I did the same thing for our board meetings as well. So,
is there a fee for that service?
For Zoom, yeah, there is. But the last year has been donated to the club, so, and we can have up to, I think it's 300 participants or 500 participants, something like that.
Wow.
Unlimited meeting time, plus it records the meetings for us, which if you haven't seen, we do have a YouTube channel. So go to YouTube and type, look for Longmont Amateur Radio Club, and you will see the past presentations out there. Thank you to AF0W. Brian's been editing those and putting them out there for us. So check that out.
Yeah, I've been there a time or two. Works pretty good.
Yeah, it's good to review some of the stuff and things like that.
Is the club going to have a ham fest in the spring?
Yes, we're still planning one. As of right now, barring any major outbreaks or, things like that.
Well, just as a reminder, everybody, the Shiwa Amateur Radio Club in Cheyenne is hosting the Wyoming Ham Convention, October 9th, here in Cheyenne. You all come. Put it on your calendar.
I've got it on my calendar.
Sounds
That's
good.
the plan.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Should be a big show, hopefully.
That's 8th and 9th, right? It starts at 6 on the 8th, and then
Friday evening there's
7 p.m.
an event, and then Saturday all day. 8 to 4 on Saturday, I think. Hopefully it'll be a big deal. That's the plan.
They got any discounts on any hotels up there?
I think, yeah, hotel listed on their website, I believe.
Did they?
I think, the Cheyenne Events Group is working on that stuff, I think.
I'll have to check it out. We go up there, we might spend the night. Be a good, nice little weekend getaway.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of doing, going up on Friday.
Just make sure.
Well,
watch
then
out.
we'll have a separate LARC party along with our
All
Shiwa.
right.
How's that?
All right, yeah.
Make sure you watch out for those new COVID hotel fees that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up scheduling another event with my wife. Oh crap! It's next month. I didn't even realize that. Oops. Anyways, so for 2 nights at a normal hotel chain that we would spend the night at, it's costing me $500.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah, and what I got looking at it, I'm like, why is it costing so much? I'm going through, going through whatever membership discount, looking through event discounts, and at the very bottom, COVID cleaning fee of like almost $100.
Wow.
Well, I doubt very much if that exists in Cheyenne. You know, we're pretty, we're different up here,
Yeah.
if you haven't already figured that out. In a good way, we think.
Yes.
Well, I'm missing somebody. Who's it? Okay. Kevin, Jeremiah, Steve.
Let's see. I saw some new faces on here.
Yeah,
Jeff
quite
is
a-
newer.
All right.
KF0 CFA.
Yep, Jeff's on the Hamlet every
Yep.
Tuesday.
We had a good Hamlet last night, I thought. So I told Brian about it. He was a little jealous, so he missed it. We talked about Aries last night.
5 minutes.
I brought up the fact that, that ARL sent out a bulletin asking that certain frequencies stay free of communication for the earthquake relief in Haiti. So, and then we just transitioned into, Aries and what it's about and things like that. So really good information last night.
Nice.
So whether you're experienced or not experienced, you're welcome to join the Hamlet Net on Tuesday nights.
Hey, SJA, are you gonna make the breakfast meetings again? Well, you got no audio, sir.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Every little bit helps, right?
Yep, you gonna make breakfast?
Yeah, I hope so. Been very busy at home the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, this week I'm not gonna make the breakfast either. I got to take my wife to the airport. She breakfast time to fly out, so I won't make it back in time. Rest of you should come and join us Sunday or Saturdays, 8 o'clock, Hidden Cafe.
So is it on this Saturday, Hidden Cafe?
Yeah,
I might actually make it this Saturday.
as far as I know, unless Don comes on and says he's not hosting it, but been
You
spread.
Still go.
You can go.
Guys last week. Sometimes we had 8.
Yeah, I'd come join everybody, but I will be at Lake Jackson this weekend camping. So
Where is
actually,
Lake Jack?
it's just a little south of Fort Morgan.
Oh, okay.
So I'm actually hoping to activate it this weekend. I'm taking my radios out and add another POTA to my my list.
Ah, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, see, I knew you would.
Yeah.
Don't everybody speak at once.
Yeah, this is open. We got 3 more minutes to rag chew before we get down to some serious business.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Chuck.
Well, it's supposed to rag chew everybody else. No, go ahead.
So, do you have to get a permit when you do parks on the air and things
No.
like that? Because when I went up to Rabbit Mountain on field day, the park ranger came up to me and said I needed a permit.
I have never heard of one telling me that. Now, Rabbit, is that federal or is that state land?
That's Boulder County.
Boulder County. It may be Boulder County itself. We usually hit state parks, and as long as I pay my $10 fee or $9 or whatever they're charging for that particular park, they don't care.
Okay.
So it's possible it's Boulder County, and the fact that, well, we'll just leave it. It's Boulder County.
Yeah.
I'll
right.
just drop it right there. I'm not going to say anything else.
Yeah.
Say no more.
There is a movement out there for certain parks and wildlife areas that if you're doing any what looks like commercial or anything that is a non-normal outdoor activity, which that falls with us with electronics and radio, that they will start requiring a permit. Hopefully with I'll save it for the presentation, but the Colorado, hopefully with their new outdoor ruling with what is it, they're trying to pass, it's if you're going to go hike, use any of our state parks, national parks, any national forest, anything outdoors, you need either a fishing license or a hunting license to access it as well.
Just to hike?
Just to hike.
Wow, they really want to stick it to us, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk more about it.
It's only on state wildlife properties, not all properties like national forest or state park.
Yeah, and there is so they're also leaving it to county level too, because I know that on the what is it, the CDT, the Colorado, no, it's the Colorado Trail, there is now a section that you have to either have a hunting permit or a hunting license, fishing license, or you have to buy a 10-day or a $10 fee to go through on the Colorado Trail. There's no longer, oh, you can just walk the trail and make it from one end to the other end of the state, or yeah, it's state. So the state property, you actually have to buy it right there and drop a check on the trail.
So this was the transceiver I was using. So what's the difference if I had this versus an HT? Of course, my antenna was just 26 gauge wire. You couldn't see it. Whatever.
Probably $30.
Yeah. Good answer.
I'm curious how the situation arose that he was looking at that. I mean, it's not like you rolled up with a backpack full of transmitters and amplifiers and batteries.
I think I just happened to be sitting out in the middle of a field.
Where were you? Where were you up in Rabbit?
It was just off the trail. As you go up, you hang a right. What is that? The Eagle?
Yeah.
So I was kind of like in the middle of the Eagle Loop. I went off the trail, to find a good clearing with a tree that I could string one end up. Yeah. So I just was out in the middle of the field, just sitting there. She couldn't see this antenna because I couldn't, and I was just sitting there with that little transceiver and my paddles, and little battery.
Bizarre.
She said they might want you to share your data with them. It's like, oh, okay, I'll give them call signs and locations in their operating mode. What good will that be?
It was your pink T-shirt that gave you away.
Yeah, there you go.